I think first, before somebody gets into investing or taking risks outside of their business, it's really important just to make sure that you're like, this is my opinion, just comfortable financially. Like you really want to make sure your bills are being paid, your company is sufficient. You can step away for a short period of time or a long period of time.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Van Horn.
What's up, Nick?
Hey, Eric.
Have you been on the podcast before?
I don't believe so.
So you'd remember if you'd been on. And so would I. I didn't think you'd been on either. And I don't know why not. I mean, like, you're one of these guys that should have been on a couple times by now. I sent you a text this morning. I'm like, yo, you want to do a podcast? And you're like, sure. What are we going to talk about? So these are the best. These are the best. Tell the audience who you are, why I would want you on the podcast.
Who I am. I'm Nick. Being a front row dad alumni, I'm a dad of four, husband to my beautiful wife Sarah, but a multipreneur, franchise owner, and investor, advisor, all the things. Almost too much, but doing a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you and I first met through Front Row Dads, which, by the way, I've sent a lot of people over to Front Row Dads, and John Vroman over there has a lot of different things going on. People can get plugged in different ways. So if you are interested in being a better dad, a better husband, being around some amazing men, like go check out Front Row Dads. That's how I've met John, and I first met Justin Donald, who you're really good friends with, through John Vroman at the same time. I joined Front Row Dads, got to know Justin, got involved in lifestyle investor stuff, and the rest is history. So give me a little bit of like, how did you get to know Justin with Lifestyle Investor?
A great question. So Justin and I both sold Cutco knives together. I was in a sales capacity. He was in a management capacity. He got promoted from his district office to run a division in St. Louis. So that's when it all started. It was a long time, probably 20 plus years ago at this point. So and we've been in touch, great friends ever since. Super grateful to call him a friend.
So like Front Row Dads is full of great entrepreneurs and people that are outside of entrepreneurship. You got started in Cutco. You were in Cutco with those boys, weren't you?
That's correct.
So it's like you, Justin, Donald, Ryan Casey, who's been on, good friend, involved with Justin over at Lifestyle Investor, Orange Theory franchisee, one of the best operators over there, Hal Elrod, Ryan Levac, like so many great people over there. But a lot of these guys came through Cutco, and they're just have gone on to do amazing things. What is it about Cutco that produces like the type of talent that's come out of there?
That's a great question. Direct sales experience and leadership and culture, I would say, would be like the three things that come to mind. They've been training people to sell kitchen cutlery since I think the sales arm started in 1981, right? So just like a tried and true. Here's what works, here's what doesn't. It's very similar to Southwestern Consulting, Tom James, Northwestern Mutual, just that one-on-one, work through referrals, eat what you kill, direct sales experience with great leadership and, teaching the success habits of any, successful person is really what it comes down to in my mind.
So, I mean, some people would look at that like, well, everybody that comes out of there should be very successful. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that get into it that don't stick around. Like they don't take the learnings. They don't get ingrained in the culture. They don't learn the sales. They don't listen. Is there a lot, is it if you're not cutting it, you're out type thing? And so it really keeps a hold of people that kind of own their own destiny.
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's really similar to, business, right? business is hard. We were briefly talking about before we went live. Like entrepreneurship is hard. Franchise, it's hard. Anybody that tells you that it's not is lying to you. So it's similar. It's if you're gonna go out and you're gonna make 30 phone calls a day to strangers, that's hard. It's not for everybody. There's nothing wrong with that. Like there's a lot of great opportunities outside of being a Cutco representative or being a franchise owner or business owner or whatever. So it's really similar though in that capacity.
So tell me just a little bit about your franchising experience so people know that what they're going through, what they're talking about. And I want to talk about just entrepreneurship outside of franchising. So franchisees that are in a franchise, they might be thinking, I could do this better on my own. So I want to talk about what you've done outside of franchising as an entrepreneur, but also as an investor and doing some passive type investing. And then even within that, you found niches and ways to make money that are pretty cool as well. So franchising background, Nick.
I like it. Well, first, I just want to say thank you. I'm like having flashbacks here. So I remember I was talking to Justin about something. He's like, dude, you got to meet Erik. And I texted you. And this was like right when I think Lifestyle Investor was like a thing at this point. This was like 4 years ago. So it had just kind of just gotten started. You and him were just starting the tribe of investors. And I got connected to you and you're like, dude, come out to South Dakota. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm having an event out in South Dakota. Like, just come out, come hang with us. And like, so just thank you for that invite, man. That really changed. There's a couple people that I met at that event specifically that really kind of changed my mindset around things. Also very similar to Lifestyle Investor Group, just the mindset of moving from being a business owner to an investor was awesome. But back to franchising. So I was working with real estate agents selling closing gifts to them. So it's Cutco closing gifts. Been doing that for a while. A friend of mine had this concept for a magazine. Basically, it was a magazine that would go to top producing real estate agents. And even at that time when he was first rolling out, he's like, do I partner with somebody? At that time, it was a publishing company that was not a franchisor, or do I go out and do it on my own? And, the long and short is he ended up partnering with publisher, and then they ended up franchising that system along with every single other publication they have. And, now Real Producers itself, probably $30-40 million brand within the big company and 120 different markets. I was the fifth one to launch one of those magazines in St. Louis. And then we got up to 5 publications and have just recently kind of scaled back down to 3 publications. So I've when it comes to franchising, like the scaling up multiple markets, like small markets, franchise or not, like I really do feel like I've learned a lot in that capacity and happy to share there. But that's kind of how it all evolved. So I've got a great operator in place there. She's been running that truly running it like hands-on for I think 6 years now. So it's been a pretty good thing for me to be able to focus on other ventures and stuff like that. So I've been investing in mobile home parks and then decided I wanted to buy a business about a year ago. So I've got a company under agreement to buy there, and then just started doing investing too. So just all the things.
So none of this you probably wouldn't be able to have the time to think about doing these other things, much less invest the time to pursue these other things, if you didn't have that operator in there that you got in 6 years ago. So give us like some advice, like real world experience that you had. Give some advice to somebody that's like, I want to have the mental capacity to start to do other things, whether it's passive investing, because it takes time. Passive investing takes time. You have to vet deals. There's a lot that goes into passive investing. So it's not like you just click and buy something. Like that's dangerous. So passive investing takes education and time. It's amazing, but there's that aspect to it. And then doing some of these other deals like mobile home parks, and then especially like what you're doing now, you have a nice business under contract that is we were talking about that, and that looks really promising. So you wouldn't be able to do all that if you didn't have this operator. What advice would you give to that person that is in your shoes 6 years ago? It's like, I want to do these other things, but I need that operator. Nick, how do I do that?
Good question. I think first, before somebody gets into investing or taking risks outside of their business, it's really important just to make sure that you're like, this is my opinion, just comfortable financially. Like you really want to make sure your bills are being paid, your company is sufficient, you can step away for a short period of time or a long period of time. Otherwise, you're just like the jack of all trades, master of none. And to be frank, like I feel like I'm that person a lot of times today. However, I think it comes down to making sure the business runs like clockwork. So I love, I think it's Mike McCall book called Clockwork. So it's a very simple, like take 2 days off, then like next quarter, take a weekend off, and then take a week off, and then take 6 months off and a year off. And your business should be running like clockwork while you're not there. And that's a big, piece, but it all comes down to great systems and great staff. And, big thanks to my Diane. And, I couldn't have done it without her. And I wouldn't even thought about doing a lot of things that I think about today if it weren't for her, and that great key staff person.
So what you're talking
Yeah.
about is Who, Not How by Dan Sullivan. It's a little book, Who, Not How. You got to find the who's, a person that can do the things for you. Let's talk about your superpower and your your kryptonite. Like, what are you really good at? What are you not good at? Like Ryan Casey, again, good friend of both of ours, Orange Theory franchisee, CEO over at Lifestyle Investor. That guy is great as an entrepreneur and like as an like a true operator, and he understands KPIs. He can manage, he can do all that stuff. I'm so jealous of him in many ways. I'm glad I'm not like that too, because I get to hire some of those, but he's very unique like that. He and another friend of yours and mine, Dane Espegard, Dane was talking about mobile home parks in the Tribe of Investors the other day, and he's just like flying by the seat of his pants, doing this, that, and the other. And Ryan Casey sends me a text. He's like, Dane and I couldn't be more opposite. So Dane and Ryan were just going into the mobile home park stuff for the Tribe of Investors. But like, what's your superpower? What are you worst in the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think similar to you, Eric and Dane, where I'm more of the visionary. I don't like being in the weeds and being in the operations. I like just doing deals. My unique ability is doing deals. You're asking me the multiple that I'm looking to buy for this roofing company, and it's low. And a lot of that is just my unique ability to figure out what the owner wants, whether they be a real estate owner or business owner, and then help them get what they want, and then bridge that gap. So it's just doing deals, spending time with people, professional personal development, just always learning and growing. That's really where I thrive, and where my environment is. What I don't like is the details. I couldn't do it without. I've got a newer operations manager, executive assistant. She's been just an absolute godsend. Like she does all the work. If in the end of the day, if I could just never be in front of a computer, like that would be ideal. So doing deals, carving out opportunities, and making win-win solutions, I'd say, is my zone of genius or unique ability.
Is your assistant stateside or out of country?
Great question. She's out of country.
Did you work with Cosm on that one, or did you work with, is that somebody else?
I didn't. A friend of mine, company is called Heroes and Sidekicks, and to be honest, I feel like I did get a little bit lucky in that placement. I guess everybody does, right? When they find a great operator or great key staff person, there are elements of feel like you got lucky there. But yeah, no, it just placed through me. I've been working with that company for a while, so they had a good pulse on what I was looking for, and then this candidate came up, and we started off part-time, but within 30 days, I'm like, look, you're full-time. I really tell people, like, they have to prove me wrong before I would, hire them or release them. Like, I just give them as much opportunity as possible.
Let's zone in here just for a brief period of time, because I think a lot of people are not taking advantage of this type of help. are you paying her around $3,000 a month roughly? Is that kind of what you would say all in is, or is it a different type of structure?
Great question. It's actually less than that. It's about 14 an hour, 40 hours a week. So you can do the math. So again, kind of feel
I
lucky
can't do
there.
the math, Nick. I can't do the math. I can't do the.
But no, but yeah, I mean that at the end of the day, that's about the going rate, right? For good help, in my opinion, overseas, even somebody good, $4,000 a month, it's worth it. When you factor in, an employee here that's a right hand executive person, you're probably paying 80 to 120 plus if they're good, but you can find that offshore talent and I highly recommend it, and I also highly recommend using an agency. If you're somebody like me, like I don't have patience to deal with 2,000 Indeed applications, or whatever that looks like. And that's the nice thing about working with those people too, is if there's an issue, like they kind of help coach and train and all that. So it's just a lot of pros to that. So Kasim, I blank, what is the name on his company? I will give him a shout
Pareto,
out to you. Pareto,
Pareto
yep,
talent.
Pareto Talent. There's others as well, but highly recommend that. Get yourself a right hand person that can just at least start doing a lot of the day to day blocking and tackling, so that you can focus on your unique ability more consistent.
So while we've been on the podcast, I've just done two things. I sent Kristen Brinley a text. I said, let's do a podcast, because Kristen's in the same franchisor that you're in. And she's part of the franchisee mastermind. She was an early member of the tribe of investors. So I'm like, we need to get Kristen on here because she's awesome. And she definitely is a go-getter. Like I love her. And then I sent Kasim a text too, and said, let's get on the pod to talk about like what we're talking about now. And part of it's selfish. Like I use offshore talent to help me with some social media stuff and some of these different things. But my executive assistant right now, Stacy, sent me a horrible email the other day. She's like, hey, I'm too busy being an entrepreneur on my own. She has a franchise now, and local here. She's like, so you need to find somebody else. And I knew this has been coming, and she's been absolutely amazing. I'm paying her a lot of money for this, but I know I can get the same type of output or similar type of output, probably even better. And I would say this directly to her, and she would probably agree, because like Cosm's team, other teams train all of these their talent on AI, on CRMs, on social, all of these other things, and it's what they do day in and day out. Stacy doesn't do all of that stuff because she's an entrepreneur. So she's been amazing at helping me, but I think I can this transition will actually be good for me. So we'll get Cosm on here to talk about like how this stuff works, and it'll be perfect timing because I'm in the need of it right now.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Zs and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
All right, let's completely shift gears. You got things set up about 6 years ago. When did you start to experience that mental freedom? I know you had the money to be able to do stuff because you've been smart with your money. You've been having good businesses, good entrepreneur. You hired her 6 years ago. When did you really start feeling that freedom? Like, she's doing amazing. I've got capacity to explore other things.
Let's step back a little bit. I want to give some credit to franchisor and to publishing and real producers. So it was actually within probably 8 months of me starting that that magazine, that publication, it was, and still is today, like a business in the box. All I really had to do is go out and produce all the back end stuff. Like they really were able to take care of it a pretty early on in that path. I was able to, have some time freedom that I hadn't really had in a long time, and was making pretty good money too. That's a testament to that, franchise model, right? It would have taken me, and if my buddy Remington would have, gone off his own, like we might still be trying to figure it out, 8 years later. But yeah, anyway, so with her, it was, I guess probably about 4 years in, right? So she was working with me in my other business. She came on about a year later, and then about 3 years after that. So it took a lot of time to get our business to a place where it was like what Dan Sullivan says, a self-managing company.
Love it. All right. So then when did you start mobile home parks?
About the same time I bought my first community. So I bought a community right after I was about a year into the franchise. And then once that franchise was established, we started buying more communities. So that
I know Justin was doing
7
buying communities as well. And I'm starting to pick up on the language, buying communities. So I know Justin was buying communities. Were you before or after Justin on that first mobile home park or community?
Oh, after. Yeah, Justin has been in, I think, 15 plus years buying mobile home parks. Yeah, he had a pretty good sized portfolio. He was one of a couple of people. Tim Nicolai, another Front Row Dad member, him and Justin had both had a substantial portfolio, and they were, quite frankly, two people that were, key to me say, look, I'm going to really build wealth. I'm going to build wealth through specifically investing in real estate and specifically buying mobile home parks. And that was kind of where that kind of journey had started.
All right. Talk about your friendships with Tim and Justin. How helpful were they when you first got started? Because where I'm going is like, I want people to understand you've got to be connected with the right people that you know, like, and trust, and that are doing really, really, doing really well in the thing that they're making money at, or entrepreneur, or whatever it is. Like the proximity to those types of people and the relationship, like describe how they helped you, who they are.
So, well, shit, we could write a novel about each of them. Like truly, I could have a book and write a chapter on each individual person, and Justin and Tim, and like all the great things that, they've taught me. But quite frankly, a lot of the stuff I've learned from mobile home parks wasn't through them. We've been more friends in the business, and family friends, stuff like that. My relationships came through mastermind communities, right? And specifically the mobile home university. So basically the top mobile home park training and education program in Frank Rolfe, at that time, the top mobile home park operator who had a training program. That's where I poured into that, and learning from him and absorbing knowledge from him. I talked to Frank Rolfe probably, once or twice a week for a very long time. So, that's part of the, hey, if somebody wants to get involved with franchising, hey, Franchise Secrets, like build your tribe around that group, specifically geared towards helping you and growing on that journey. Because at the end of the day, Justin and Tim, they were at a different level in their business. We weren't both just starting a business, right? So you mentioned Kristen Friendly, dear friend, right? We both started the Real Producers around the same time. We were then, doing it together, but we still had our own, mentor groups outside of that. I think you got to look at mentoring. There's like, there's your peer group, right? So that'd be Kristen Brenly in this example. And then there's your mentor. So the mentor, like Justin and Tim, they were at a higher level. So I could for sure consider them mentors, but I'd really say the mentor community, that was the mastermind. That's really where the good traction comes from. The peer group, that's like if you're hanging out in the trenches, life is great or life sucks. Like that's who you want to call on to pick you up and support you. And the same with the mastermind community as well. But anyway, kind of went on a long rant there, but I would say the mastermind community was more important. Yeah.
Two things. One, Like, these are just genuine questions that I have, and you're giving real answers. Like, it's not about, hey, Tim's amazing, Justin's amazing, here's how they helped me. You're like, yeah, they're great, but they were actually at a different level than me. I got my real help through Frank over the mastermind. Justin still talks about Frank. Like, in this session that we were in, like, Frank has, I think he still has an amazing mastermind. And I think the point is, you know, franchisors are great. They'll help you with stuff. You can get involved with the right mastermind. So let me shift gears as similar topic, but shifting gears. And we'll kind of go into what you're doing with your business acquisition right now. So we are talking to some in different industries, all home service type industries. Roofing is one of those, but we're talking to other companies out there, and we're just opportunistic. Wherever the opportunity is, finding that right entrepreneur, right for franchising, right timing, we are going to be the franchisor with these entrepreneurs. That's what Front Street is doing in one of the things that we do, in addition to normal like franchise sales type stuff and advisory stuff. So there's a number of different things that Front Street does. So as we've looked into some of these different home service companies, one of the guys was just like, yeah, I've done a lot. I'm doing great. He's making great money, great revenue. But he's like, I am part of this mastermind in home services. And this is the thing that has really set me apart with all of my competitors. And he would say, but so-and-so is doing it really well in franchising. There's one competitor that's doing very well in franchising, and they happen to be a Neighborly brand because that Neighborly acquired. And then I'm not going to give the industry on this one because this is one we're actively working on. And then all the other franchises are garbage out there. And we're like, why? He's like, these guys, he knew the guy of that original franchisor that's now part of Neighborly. He's like, because we learned from the same mentor in this mastermind group that taught us this type of stuff. And then the same guy that I'm talking to right now, he's like, we also started to learn from, I forgot his name, the Wizard of Ads in Austin. And he's just he's this guy that he'll only work with one company within an industry. And he's just known in the world of advertising and digital marketing as like the guy, but it's the Wizard of Ads. Like, I worked with him for a long time. So this is the guy that goes out and learns from the best of the best. And I think, so he's just an entrepreneur right now. He doesn't have a franchise. We're looking at franchising his business, but this is the guy that he's doing so well because he learned from the people that are doing it, and they're the best of the best out there. Sounds like you kind of did the same thing within the mobile home park world.
Yeah, exactly. And it's getting a different perspective, right? So within our franchise system and real producers and too, like we've got the operating system, right? We've got the I don't know what you call, we've got the business, right? Now we might learn from in a mastermind group different tips and tricks of the trade that wouldn't even be talked about in our group. And that's really what it comes down to. And I'm also thinking, you mentioned service-based companies. You should get Tommy Mello on your podcast. I don't know if you know Tommy, or I think his book's called Elevate. Highly recommend it. A1 Garage Door. You familiar with? Well, I guess
Tommy doesn't know anything. Tommy doesn't know anything. No, I'm teasing. Tommy's been on the podcast. I know Tommy a bit. We were in the same mastermind group together. And this was when our mutual friend, who's no longer with us, John Rulin, was with me in the same mastermind group. And John forgot, a little quick story, John forgot to book his hotel room there. And he sent me a text. He's like, dude, and he's a speaker there too. He's like, dude, I didn't book my hotel room. It's sold out. Can I crash at your place? And I'm like, absolutely. So we were roommates, and he just had appendicitis too. So he was like barely moving, but Tommy was there too. And so it was me and Tommy and John Rulin and a bunch of other entrepreneurs. And it was really fun, but that was my, good memory with both John and Tommy. So since then, Tommy's been on the podcast. He's doing great things in the garage door space, and he's a giver. Like, he gives a lot of help. He's got that book Elevate, and then he's also got a conference that he puts on. So I'm a big fan of Tommy Mello, and he had a great exit. Well, not really an exit. He had a great capital injection where he was able to take some chips off of the table. So yeah, great guy in the home services industry and garage door specifically. So have you ever looked at the garage door space?
Yeah, I like it. I've had my garage door fixed like 3 times in the past month and a half, and more recently was uh, my son like left it halfway propped down, and I just backed out and destroyed it. But fortunately, we
Man.
just had to get it repaired. But it's a great. That's one of those businesses, like a lot of service. Like I'm not going to repair my garage door. I don't know. Like you have. It's a niche thing. Somebody's got to do it, and it's a very very fragmented industry. Similar to roofing is still incredibly fragmented at this point. So um,
What else
yeah.
did you look at before we get into roofing? Like any other like home services that you thought were interesting? Because we're talking to home service entrepreneurs all the time. Like we're talking to some franchisors, but mostly we're talking to entrepreneurs that want to franchise their business. And we always do a call with them because you just never know where it's going to lead. So that's the new Front Street model, like going into 2026 and beyond. One of the things is, being the franchisor. So and then we'll bring in an operating partner on that as well. So we'll do our thing over at Front Street, bring in an operating partner, bring in the capital to bring in the CEO and C-level executives, turn that into a franchise, and have more control ourselves, and then build something great. So I'm deep into home services, talking to you name it out there. So it's a lot of fun. So anything else besides like garage door, roofing that you've looked into or thought about looking into?
Plumbing is still number one, I think, on my list. I think pest control is great. Those are the heating, cooling, restoration. Restoration, like roofing, there's definitely some, you know, challenges in working with insurance companies. So you really got to factor that in.
Mhm.
But there's still a ton of opportunities. So at the end of the day, that's there's, who's going to do it, right? You could the equipment that those guys use, if they're doing it right, is not something you can just go out and buy at Home Depot and do yourself. So
What like compare like heating and cooling to pest control? Like maybe compare and contrast those two a little bit, or what do you like about each of those? I mean, one of them's reoccurring revenue, one of them's kind of higher ticket and need, well, both of them are need based. You see pests going around, people are like, I need somebody to help. But heating and cooling or plumbing, like that is something breaks, something needs fixed. We just spent $4,000 behind me and because our floors weren't heating. $4,000 later, our floors are back to work. So I think that's high ticket, and I needed it. So what are some of the things that you like about both pest and heating, cooling, or
y-
plumbing?
I guess I'm going to divert a little bit. I think at the end of the day, it is really more about the owner operator match, right? Like
Mhm.
than the actual business itself. And the reason I'm buying the roofing company right now, it wasn't the number one company on the list, but it was a good opportunity. Owners want to retire, and it's right in my backyard, and we're gonna make something of it. So it's really more about alignment with the ownership group and the key staff and the leadership than the business itself. I think there's two ways you can look at it, right? Like one is like hey, we're gonna by pest control companies doing 2 to 20 million of revenue, or you can have more of a broad approach and say, hey, we're going to focus on service-based companies doing 2 to 20 million. And once I go deep in one or two, I'm not going to divert from that. So right now, it's roofing and plumbing would be the two that I would really focus in on. But I will tell you, if a opportunity came up in pest control or excavating or something else, like I would pursue it if everything aligned. So I don't know if I don't know enough about those industries to kind of say, hey, yes or no, one way or the other. I guess would be the short answer there.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because you're looking at it to be the owner there, and so you have to look at the operator that was running it, and if they were, what they were great at, what they weren't great at, and can you fix stuff? Are there different levers to pull? And so that makes sense. Same thing franchisees should be looking at. Just because, like, if you and I were to say, roofing or garage door or restoration or heating and cooling, any one of those are like, this is the best one, and this is why. Well, if you're buying one, you better make sure that you understand how the operator ran it before you buy it. To Nick's point, if it's a franchise, you better understand like how the experience that franchisor has in the space, the industry. And if they have franchising people there to help them, you don't need franchising people there to help them, but I mean, it certainly helps. Franchising is a different animal. We talk to these entrepreneurs all the time and they're like, oh, this seems so easy to franchise it. All you do is spend $50,000, you get an FDD and I'll teach them everything I know. And then they're a franchisor. And that's when, they're like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't realize it was going to be this difficult. I didn't think it was going to take this much capital. I didn't realize there's all kinds of things they didn't realize. So as a buyer, as a buyer of a mom and pop, or as one that's non-franchise, you better understand like how that owner ran the business. And as a buyer of a franchise, you better understand like the culture, the way that franchisor is going to work with you as a franchisee, because it doesn't matter if the industry is great. If you partner with the wrong person, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
And even if the industry is great, but it doesn't give you energy, I would encourage people to just really focus on what gives you energy. What can you pour a decade of your life into? Because we all have this shiny object syndrome, and there may be a great franchise system with a great track record and all these things, but it's just not exciting. And you may do it anyway, and then you're like stuck, right? It's all about getting true clarity on what you really want. And you kind of mentioned, for me, I want to be an investor and an advisor, and I can, do that fortunately in different industries. At some point I will eventually focus in, like I said, on a couple, but right now it's, hey, I just want to help people. So if somebody wants to retire, like, let's look at that. Anyway, I think it's the point.
Well, I think what I heard you say is like, Cody Sanchez was good, but Nick Najjar, like he's the man. He's coming in after Cody. So yeah, I'm expecting to see a ton of content out there. Were you there when Cody was at that first lifestyle event?
I was, yeah. And I was actually it was so funny. I was just at Justin's house one day, and like she came over. I'm like, look, like, and I guess they were next door neighbors for a while. It was pretty funny. This is such a small world. It's wild. But yeah, I mean, if somebody's looking to buy a business or franchise, Cody's new book, Main Street Millionaires, that's a great one. Buy Then Build, a friend of mine, lifestyle investor alumni, Walker Dybel, and my favorite, quite frankly, is still Roland Frazier and his materials, Business Wealth Without Risk. Like I've been able to, learn a lot and do some, even to this day, a couple different deals, advisory deals that I would have never even thought about doing if it weren't for that material. So again, just learning from the best.
You got to get all that. Walker's is great too. So if you've heard of Cody, you like Cody, check out Walker Dybel's Buy Then Build.
Buy Then Build. His is a little more traditional, and there's also a newer one I just listened to. It's again a little more traditional, like more of a, we'll call it like Harvard style approach. You spend 2 years, you do a search, you get a small business loan, that type of deal, which is still a great opportunity for a lot of people. You don't need to get these like super creative deal structures, but it's anyway, Harvard Business Review Guide to Buying a Small Business, which is really strong.
That's interesting. I think everybody should be reading Walker's book. If they're into this with Cody, they definitely need to get Walker's book. Well, I spent some time with Walker. Walker told me to come out to that St. Louis kind of Main Street event that was out there this summer. And there's some franchising people out there, and I never made it, but yeah, definitely get Walker's stuff. And it's kind of more, I'd say it's kind of probably more in depth. Would you say kind of more bigger, like a bigger business? It's a bigger business. What would you say? How would you describe that versus like Cody's? And then I want to talk about Roland for a brief second too.
Well, there's a couple different ways you can look at any business, right? But it is more of a, you could buy a mom and pop baby boomer, business for, we'll call it less than 2 million of revenue. So your invested capital's, less than $500,000, or you can buy a bigger company, say more than 1 million of earnings, and maybe raise capital or invest a lot more money and take that company from here to here. So in my opinion, you just want to buy something that's not going to go away a week after you buy it. And there's pros and cons to both, right? So there's no right or wrong. You can most of the time you can make more money doing the Cody Sanchez approach if you're willing to get your hands dirty, right? You buy a company doing 2 million of revenue, you put some systems, tech, people in place, get it to 8, you've made a boatload of money. Where it's sometimes a little harder if you're taking a company from 2 to 15 million of revenue, because that's just a different animal, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Roland he's great at negotiating. He's great at like having some mindset shifts and negotiating and reframing things. What else would you say about Roland? Was that accurate? And is there anything else that you would add to that?
Yeah, great. A lot of things. I think, 220 different ways you can come out of buy a business without any money out of pocket, right? So that's that negotiating, like trying to find a win there and getting really creative on the deal structure side of things. I'm trying to think. The other big takeaway from me with Roland is like your acquisition criteria. I really focus in on, service-based businesses. I was all over the place, and he had a little exercise, like just really trying to pinpoint what you really want and what you're really good at, where you could really add value in either an advisory relationship or, an acquisition. And that's a big piece of it too, because I think a lot of us can get really distracted by an opportunity or a lot of different opportunities. And like at the end of the day, if there's no value to be added, why waste your time? So that was a big one that comes to mind too.
Here's something that I think franchise buyers should do more of, and it's what you're doing. If you're buying a franchise, and let's say it's in the roofing space, I would look at the industry, vet the industry in addition to the franchisor. I have a custom GPT that kicks out 20 to 30 page reports on industries. And I have it act as a McKinsey consultant, act as, all these different personas to be able to give me different perspectives of the industry. And there's so much information out there on industries. And so we were looking at taking this one industry and turning it into this entrepreneur into a franchise. And we were just not, there's other franchises out there that are crushing it. But we were looking at the numbers like we're missing something. What are we missing? Because there wasn't enough meat on the bones for the franchisees to make the kind of money that a franchisee should make. And so I'd run these different reports, a lot of different financial reports to understand average, like industry cash flow of a $2 to $3 million business in this particular category. What's the cash flow? What is EBITDA? What is net profit? And then, and I'm like, I'm missing something. It gave me all these percentages. And then I looked at his P&L that he was showing us, and I'm like, that's it. And it was, he was going to charge franchisees for the material at retail prices when they could get it less expensive from the manufacturer. I'm like, you don't charge franchisees more money to buy stuff. So that added, I think it was 5 or 10% to the bottom line for the franchisees. And then we're like, you can still, the franchisor can still make some of, you're getting massive discounts because you're buying in bulk, or you have an arrangement with the franchise, with that supplier, where you are putting up a bunch of money to secure a bunch of orders or whatever it is. So there's ways for both to win. But point is, compare the industry to the franchise that you're looking at buying, because it needs to add up. Like you should be getting, the franchisor should, it should still make sense to get into it as a franchisee as it would as a mom and pop, but you need to understand the financials. And the way to do that is to understand what the entrepreneurs are out there doing and how hard it is to get to that level. If it's a $2 million level of gross revenue or $4 million level of gross revenue, like how long does it take the average entrepreneur to get there? And do you think you could get there faster as a franchisee, or are there other benefits of being a franchisee? So I'm a big fan of industry research in addition to just franchise research, and I'm hoping more people will start to listen to that, because that's something I think more people need to be doing. Because I do a lot of industry research as we are looking at turning brands into the franchisor. Any thoughts along that lines?
Yeah, totally. A big one comes to mind. Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. He talks about the 10 stages of a business life cycle. And so you really want to evaluate the business itself. Like, where is it? Is it a startup? Is it aging? Is it dead? That's the business. That's the people, the processes, the systems, the clients, all that. But also to what you're talking about, Tony talks about evaluating the industry, right? The reason I'm sure you and I are liking the home services side of things because I've got some good friends that are in, software marketing, right? Ad agency. Like, that's so scary, right? Attorney, legal stuff. Like every attorney I've talked to, they're optimistic. Like, it's scary. Websites, there's this website development tool now called Replit. You can build a website in like 2 hours, and it's just like all software is dead. Like all of it, it's dead, right? So what do people really need? Where is the business? And also, if you're evaluating a franchise, like where is that franchise system? Like, are they a newer franchise or are they more established? Like, where are they at and the leaders in that? So a lot of moving parts to evaluate.
That's really good. I did not have not looked at Tony Robbins' business mastery stuff, but as we were on, I'm going to dig into that, and I see he's got a 66 page worksheet, like a manual out there from one of his events that he did. So I would dig into that. And here's the thing about Tony. Some people think Tony, what does he know about business? Because he's this guy that's a stage guy and good at all of this other stuff. But he's also really good at learning from a lot of different people, and he attracts some amazing people. So I definitely look at business mastery. I'm going to look into that, but also his book on investing. I mean, it's not just Tony. It's the founder of Kaz Investments. And you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I'm blanking on the
Yeah,
name, but
he spoke at the lifestyle retreat, the founder of Kaz. But like that's a really good book on investing. So I definitely look at some of these. We mentioned a lot of different resources and a lot of different ways to look at it. How important is it in a business to look at how you could possibly exit the business? Because one of the things that we look at is private equity interested in this category, in this industry. And if they are interested in it, that's even more interesting to us. Not that, I mean, it shows the energy, it shows something is interesting about that category if private equity is going into that. I know they're going after certain industries. Roofing's one of them. Fire sprinklers is another. Restoration is another, I believe. Plumbing, all these ones that you're mentioning, private equity is buying out mom and pop. So was that ever a factor as you looked into buying an entrepreneur out?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the first question. It's usually the question that either somebody never asks or they ask it once they're 6 years into the business and they're burnt out and tired, right? The first question asked is, what's your exit plan? Like, what's your exit strategy, even before you'd start a business? Um, yeah, it's critical. But also, I think at the end of the day, it's more about increasing the enterprise value and creating a self-managing company and being able to exit, having liquidity. Same thing in the mobile home part world, right? Like a business or real estate property, unless it's a single family house, it's not like an easy exit process. And if you really want to maximize enterprise value, you need to do all the things to get it to where it is attractive to multiple buyers, right? So if it's real estate, it's increasing occupancy, or if it's business, it's increasing net operating income. And it's most importantly increasing net operating income without the owner involvement, right? So it's building out a sales team and all those things that are hard to do. That's what people want to buy. They want to buy the hard stuff. I was talking to a partner about private equity. Like, they don't want to do any work. Private equity doesn't want to do any work. So here's the cool thing about you people listening to the call today. If you're not a private equity fund, you're probably willing to do the work. So you have a competitive advantage against the private equity group. At the end of the day, that's the value, right? It's being able to bring value and expertise and grit and determination to a company to help them succeed and grow.
So you're able to get this at a really good multiple of EBITDA or whatever, factor that you're using. Was one of the reasons you got it at a lower multiple is because the founder was heavily involved in some of the things, and you're going to have to either do some of that yourself and then hire that out? Is that one of the reasons you're able to get it? One of the levers that you can pull?
Yeah, yeah. Well, two, one, it was an off-market, deal, so it wasn't, through it was actually ironically through a broker, but it was before, like, I had a good relationship. I sent the broker a referral to a business that I didn't want to buy, but he was ready to sell, right? So I just, gave, and then he gave back to me in that capacity. But yeah, there's a lot of work, right? There's a lot of work involved in hiring and developing a leadership team, and this particular company, their invoicing and everything is through Microsoft Word. They don't have a CRM. They don't use any tech or system. So yes, we're actively, looking to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to make that work. So.
Well, dude, we didn't even get into I wanted to get into some of the deals that you did in mobile home parks because I know you guys are making millions in mobile home parks. And so I wanted to get into some of that. And then I also know that you were doing some bird dog, and you started to go out there and get leads and then sell them. And wish we could have gotten that one story. Didn't you get a deal that Justin had been working on for a while, and then Justin had to pay you a bunch of money to get a deal done? Is that true?
Well, Justin and I have done a lot of deals in that capacity, 3 or 4. Not that he was working on. I don't know that specific example. I'm not totally sure. It wouldn't surprise me though. But yeah, just to kind of clarify, basically we, in our search for buying mobile home parks, we might find an opportunity that's not a fit for me personally, but a fit for a different buyer, and that's where we would, get that deal under agreement, and then basically wholesale it for an assignment fee. I wouldn't. Well, yeah, we made good money. Obviously, I haven't made as much as story of my life. I haven't made as much money as Justin, but I've made okay money.
I know how you guys do. I know exactly how you guys do. And Justin's made a ton of money. Others have made a lot of money, and a lot of money is it's what most people would. What you and I could never dream. We're living this dream that I never thought I would be living. And I know you are too. And a lot of our mutual friends, which is really, really fun to see.
It is cool. Yeah. And it's focused on wealth creation, right? That can come through so many different things. And it's, I've been really fortunate to be able to focus more on wealth creation events, bigger deals, bigger opportunities, longer term opportunities than, running the grunt work of the day to day in certain things. So, but I tell you what though, like we talked about, I think it was before we went online, but I touched on it. Business is hard. You can't think that it's easy. I was talking with another partner. We actually have a startup that we're doing. Would have never thought we were doing a startup proprietary search for private equity groups. So we'll help them source qualified leads. So it's very similar to what I was doing in real estate, just at a different level. When I was talking, it's a lot of people, like these employees, they want to be a business owner so they can go out on the golf course and spend a lot of time golfing. No, that perception of a business owner. That's a business owner that's built a business for 20 years. Then they can go out and golf, right? So it's just you can't put the cart before the horse in that capacity, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to grow and work hard and play hard. So.
And that's inside of franchising, outside of franchising. That's just entrepreneurship in general. So awesome, man. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.